Hi guys, this is Jake at Canadian Cutting Edge, and today we're taking a look at an afro. Well, no, not an afro, not the hairstyle. We're taking a look at Froe by SCHRADE. All we have basically is a straight blade on a flat grind, a little bit of a TPE handle. So you grab your handle, you put your Froe on top of your log, and you whack it on the back to baton with. So this is basically a dedicated batoning tool. I've been here in the Canadian Rockies now this is our 4th day, I think. And I found that I like this a whole lot better than using my axe or my hatchet to split wood, especially for kindling. That last little bit of splitting and stuff is so easy, so convenient, and it actually works better in slightly wet wood. A lot of the wood that we have here probably was cut down this past winter, late winter, early spring. So it's not really dry. And at the campsite that we're at. So I'm having to do a lot of batoning to get through the wood because it's just working better than an axe or a hatchet. So if you want to get more details, more info on a Froe by SCHRADE at a very reasonable cost, there's Buck makes a Froe, and they're charging like $130 US for their Froe. This guy, you can find it for 30 bucks all day long or less. I'm talking US dollars. And it does the exact same job. So get yourself a SCHRADE if you're looking for a Froe, and stick around to learn why. It's always a little tricky setting up when you're at some other place. I'm at my wife's parents' place, and I've rigged up a camera next to patio doors so I get some light in. It's raining outside, so I had to do this inside, and I think I've got good enough light. I think it looks good, guys. So what do we have here? This is the SCHF64, my favorite wood processing knives that I have. I never would have thought that a Froe would be this great, because the Froes that I've had experience with, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, just were not that good. And it was the Froe that I used to work with a little bit is the style that shinglers use when they're making cedar shakes and shingles. This particular style was one where there was a blade on, it looked a lot like this. And then on the end here, if you turn it this way, there was a hole that would slide on a post, a rod, and then it would slide up and down in this direction, so that you could, break your cedar and create yourself a shingle. This is a fully manual by hand style Froe, and it works very, very well. Let's talk about the sheath briefly. It's made of a polyester kind of weave fabric, heavy duty fabric, Velcro back here. Very big piece of Velcro, so you can put it on and off of your belt if you'd like to, with quite a bit of ease. And yet with that much Velcro, it actually holds quite well. And of course you can get your big 2-inch belt through there, no problem, or get it over your 2-inch belt. We've got a nice snap here to hold the Froe in place when it's in your sheath. I like that better than Velcro, so that's a really good thing. They've got their name embroidered in there. And if you want to tie this thing to around your leg, you can do that. You just undo this bit of cordage here. This is not paracord, but it's it's a light polyester type cordage, a little lighter than a paracord. You could undo that, and then you could tie that around your thigh, lower thigh, above the knee, and it will go with you. When I carry it, I just let it dangle. Or I just put it in my backpack or whatever to take it out, because I'm not going to carry this when I'm going, deep into the woods, mostly because with my bad knees, I don't go deep into the woods. So I just leave it in my bag and I take it wherever I'm going. I mostly do car camping, that kind of thing, because of my bad knees and stuff. And I've done a lot of processing of wood with this thing, as you probably saw in the intro. I don't remember what I said in the intro. I recorded that several weeks ago. when I was in Jasper. So here we've got this blade. What I really like is you can see exactly what a flat grind looks like by looking at this here. Because it's just straight off on the end, the blade just sort of terminates. You can see exactly what a flat grind looks like. So we've got a piece of steel that is, oh, I don't have the measurements here. I'm going to have to get the measurements. You know, a certain thickness, and then they do a flat grind down on both sides on this particular Froe, which I highly, highly recommend over a hollow grind for this type of task. And then they just do a little final grind on the cutting edge right there. And that final grind is right around a millimeter behind the grind. For chopping through wood and for batoning through wood, you want it to be at least a millimeter thick behind the grind. If you have a hollow grind knife that you want to use for batoning through wood, you're going to want it to be 1.5 millimeters, I think, behind the grind, because you want a lot of strength in that steel. If it's too thin, then a hollow grind is going to be a little weak and it's not going to be durable enough. On a flat grind, it starts to get thicker immediately, so that's 1 millimeter that I'm suggesting. You know, on a small pocket knife, I'm saying 0.5 millimeter for the thickness behind the grind. So there you can see some of the differences. So this flat grind's been working really well for me. You can see all the, you know, some of the crud on here, some sticky sap from some evergreen kind of wood that I dealt with, some spruce, some pine, some whatever, maybe even some cypress I went through, I'm not sure. And that's what we've got. So let's talk about the dimensions. The weight, I don't know. I don't have a small scale here either. It said 16 ounces, and I'm not sure if that's with the sheath or without the sheath. Hopefully I can get that information to you before I publish. Look in the description below if it's not on the bottom of the screen. Okay, steel type, 1070 carbon steel. Great steel for this kind of task. TPE plastic, rubberized kind of overmold. Little hole, the steel you can see in there. You can see the steel in that little hole if you're looking carefully. So you know for sure that this is an absolute full tang knife. And, you know, it's just something simple, nothing fancy. Froes have been around for an awful long time, and this is just a very basic standard Froe. So you put this on a piece of wood and you baton through it. And that's all there is to it. Some other specs for you. The handle here is 6 1/4 inches, which is 15.8 centimeters. The blade length is 8.5 inches, which is 21.6 centimeters. The cutting edge is right on 8 inches. The overall length of this knife from end to end right here, 14 3/4 inches, 37.4 centimeters. And Knife Center has this knife for $25. You can find it all over the place. They have it in a lot of different stores. If you want to use Amazon.com to purchase it, I've got a link in the description below, and I will get a small commission off of that. Otherwise, buy it wherever you want. Canadian prices, unfortunately, cost a little bit more. Sorry about that, my Canadian friends, and that's just the way it is. So I'll show you some video now of me putting this thing through some wood, and I believe it works really, really well for that. Hey, I didn't say good this time. It works really, really well as opposed to working really, really good. It's a high saber grind, so any of those tools that you can clamp on to sharpen, you know, this knife is very easy to sharpen that way. I don't care that there's no sharpener's choil. This kind of tool does not need any of those fancy little things on it. It's just a standard brute force kind of tool, and SCHRADE made it plain, simple, perfect. Well, maybe not perfect, but very, very good. So what do I love and don't I love about this knife? Well, I'll tell you the one thing that I'll tell you the one thing that I would change. I don't really dislike it, but I would change it. And that is this handle. SCHRADE, if you're listening, I would like it if this handle was just a little bit thicker. I did find it sometimes when I was batoning, and a lot of the time I was not using gloves, that this was just a little bit too thin and a little bit too hard. So if you could do a a bit of a larger, a bit thicker, slightly softer overmold that's going to absorb a little bit more of the vibration. Because sometimes if you're going through a knot or something, this thing can really vibrate. But the downside of putting a softer overmold is you're going to damage this here if you ever hit your baton on here. And in my video, I show you that you're going to see in a few seconds, I show you that I did hit the baton on here to drive, the knife was going in sideways and I banged it down with this side, and you can't find any damage on here. So it's one of those questions of should I, shouldn't I? If you're going to use the knife the way I used it and hit the baton on here, you don't want a softer overmold because it'll break, you'll wreck it. But if you want to get rid of the vibration and put a softer overmold, then I wouldn't hit the baton on here because I wouldn't want to wreck it. So 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I really would like it to be a bit thicker, a bit softer, just for some more comfort, especially for those newbies who are going to be using this or just aren't used to doing that kind of thing and, would prefer that. If you're wearing gloves, which is what I highly recommend when you're using this tool, some of those problems are already mitigated because you've got that softness with putting leather on your hand. Hopefully you got leather gloves for that. That's the only thing that is somewhat of a negative. Very, very small factor. If they do rethink this, generation 2, that's what I would do. What do I like about this? Price, size, materials. The only thing that you can make better in materials is maybe make a leather sheath. But this tool doesn't need a leather sheath. It doesn't call for a leather sheath. It just needs to be a sheath that protects it while you carry it. So that's not a big deal at all. It's a good knife. Go out and get yourself one if you are into processing wood, especially for fires. Use all the little hints that I've told you about batoning. Main thing is only baton as thick of a piece of wood as you absolutely need to. If you're going through a big 4-inch log, I would suggest you go off to just take off 1/3. So you're not going through 4 inches, you're just going through 3 inches. The less you're batoning, the longer your edge would last. The longer your edge lasts, the happier camper you will be. And that's why I suggest doing it that way. So there you have it. Here's this knife, and I'm recommending it very highly. Let's see how well the SCHRADE Froe can split some wood. Got my piece of dead wood for a baton. Not bad. Let's see if another angle looks better on the camera. That's a good Froe. Wonder if a Froe can make feather sticks. I might not be very good at making feather sticks, but this Froe can. Okay, so now that you've seen the outdoor videos, final summary, SCHF64, the SCHRADE Froe, highly recommended, works very well, simple to use, comfortable for the most part. If you'd like this video, please click the thumbs up, please share with somebody. I'd like to see your comments and anything else you'd like to suggest to me to do, something you want to see me review, whatever, add those comments in. And in just a couple of weeks, I think I'll be back in Alberta, back to my full schedule of doing, 6+ videos a week. I know you're looking forward to that return. So here you got it, the SCHRADE SCHF64, the Froe. Thank you so much for watching, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Remember, always baton towards your chum and not your thumb.